You are listening to Amplify Your Success Podcast, episode 204. And today, let's talk about a growing phenomenon called decision fatigue and how it's impacting you and your business. So let's get started.
Welcome to the Amplify Your Success Podcast. Hey, are you a thought leader, creative entrepreneur, or change maker and want to magnify your impact, boost influence while creating a financial abundance? Stay tuned for today's inspiring episode with your host, Melanie Benson.
Hello there, inspired entrepreneurs, business leaders, expertpreneurs. It's your host, Melanie Benson here. And I'm going to talk today about something that was very profound when I learned about it. It's called decision fatigue and how it's impacting so many business owners and what we can do about it, more importantly. I'll talk about the signs that you might be in decision fatigue, what decision fatigue is doing to your business, and what decision fatigue means to your future success. Now, as I dig into this topic today, I want to give a shout out to a guest of mine that was on the show a few weeks back. His name is Robert Brus. He's the host of Go All In podcast. And we started talking about something that gets in the way of entrepreneurs, and that was decision fatigue. And as he was talking about it, I'm like, ding, 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 I recognize this. And I realized that I had been in decision fatigue. And there's a lot of ways that we get into decision fatigue, but here's your first sign, and that is the more you grow, the more you are pushing through levels of your own comfort zone or going into that next level of success you haven't been in, the easier it is to fall into decision fatigue because you're going to be faced with a lot of new decisions. And these are often decisions you don't feel ready to make, capable of making, that you don't have enough information to make. And part of decision fatigue is this constant drain of having to make decision after decision after decision. Now, if you know that you're there too, you're going to love what I came up with, because I actually went in and started researching, well, what is this phenomenon of decision fatigue and what are our real options? As a coach, I get it. Like, I get what we can do differently, but I wanted to really know, what are other really successful people doing to not just combat it, but to eliminate decision fatigue creeping in? Now, part of the reason this was so huge for me is we've been behind the scenes making a lot of big decisions about where we're going in the future years. And one big decision we made was to introduce a membership style program called the Amplify Inner Circle. Share more about that at the end. However, there was a lot of decisions that went into whether or not we do this. Market research, really understanding what does my community need and want right now? What are the things that I can do to reach more people and support them where they are? Because not everyone's ready to make the investment that Amplify Mastermind requires. So I found myself really kind of bumping into some fatigue. Not to mention the fact that, there's no surprise to the listeners here that have been here a while. I have some health stuff that comes up from time to time that really depletes my ability to make good decisions. So when Robert started talking about decision fatigue, I started thinking, this is exactly what I'm dealing with. And so one of the things I discovered as I dug deeper into what decision fatigue was is that, and this makes perfect sense, it's not necessarily physical fatigue, which does also contribute to the impact, but it's a mental fatigue. It's a mental drain on your ability to make decisions. And I hit this the first time when I was just getting into my upper six figures about 15 years ago. And my team at the time was telling me that I was holding back making decisions that was causing them to not be able to get their jobs done fast enough. And I realized that I had become a bottleneck. And this is a really common trap when you're moving from 5 figures to 6 figures to mid six figures to 7 figures, and so on and so on. There's that next level set of circumstances and conditions and fears and newness that causes us to put the brakes on and say, wait, what am I supposed to do now? And what ends up happening is that we get into this do nothing or do anything, kind of like that give up mode of like, I don't care what happens. And so we tend to have a lot of poor decisions or no decisions. Okay, that's really a definer right there. We're making a lot of poor decisions or no decisions. Now, here's some interesting research. Dr. Roy Baumeister, hopefully I said his name right, he did some market research, some deeper research on the Freudian hypothesis of ego depletion. So ego depletion, also considered to be the depletion of willpower. And it's this place that human beings get into where they feel like they have limited willpower. And so when you use it up, you make poor choices. This is very interesting because this also ties back to habits and behaviors that at a certain point, we quote unquote use up all of our willpower. And then we tend to fall back on deep habits. So we can use our willpower for only so long to correct a behavior, to make a new decision, to grow and expand. And then when we use up that willpower, we kind of fall into old habitual thinking. And this is where our conditioning comes into play. A second component of it is that when we're working for an extended period of time, we're being forced to make multiple complex decisions, you use up that store of ego faster. So think about when you're growing your business, when you're pushing through to that next level, you're making all kinds of decisions that you've never made before, some of which might be complex, requiring more money, more time, more team members, more strategy, right? And all of a sudden you're like, I don't know what to do. And this is where launches get really complicated for a lot of people who've not built up that resourcefulness. So we hit that phase of decision fatigue, and it's where our lack of energy and focus moves us into making poor decisions or not making a decision at all. And I've actually seen this play out in myself and others that I mentor and coach, where they're like, I don't have it in me to do any kind of a launch right now. I'm exhausted. So I remember a time I was very tired a lot, and I was doing these complicated launches. This was back when we did Build Your Dream Team, and we had the fast track to lifestyle business. But I'm really dating myself. This was way back in the day, right? And by the time we got to promoting it, I was so fatigued from deciding what order to put things in. I realized my launches were suffering. Okay, my launches were not going well because I didn't have it in me to figure out the next piece anymore. And that's where we have to start looking at what's our strategy to get where we want to go that would allow us to make less complicated decisions. So here's some of the signs that you might be experiencing decision fatigue and some of the things that kind of lead to it. So first of all, you're overwhelmed a lot. Okay, so an overwhelmed mind very quickly gets into decision fatigue. Overwhelmed with too many ideas, too many choices, too many deadlines, too many priorities, too much financial overwhelm, right? So there's a lot of overwhelm components that can drag us down. A complicated launch or trying to take something new out into the world. You're exhausted a lot. So when we're exhausted, our resourcefulness is low, meaning we don't have the ability to think outside our normal box. You might find yourself over delegating decisions. So that means instead of maintaining your direction and your control, you are acquiescing your power to someone on your team or to a coach or to a spouse or friend or something of that nature, and you're giving them the power to make decisions that probably aren't going so well for you. You might even find that you just avoid or abdicate making decisions at all. Like I've had people who say, I just can't decide. And this might be, you want to join a mastermind, but you can't decide, so you don't. Or you need to do some marketing, but you can't decide, so you don't. Or there's an event you've been thinking about and you're like going back and forth, and you can't decide, so you don't. Every time we're in that indecision, we are draining our decision power, moving us closer and closer to fatigue. Okay. And you'll find that if lots of big risks are involved, your decision fatigue might go up. And the more decisions you have to make during a given day or given period of time, the more fatigued you get, the less you want to make those decisions. Okay, it's really a very normal thing to think of it like your decision power is in a storage unit. And as you have to make more and more complicated decisions, you're pulling from that storage unit. If you're not replenishing that storage unit, it will empty and you won't have the capacity to make those complicated decisions. I love this bit that I found. One of my favorite psychologists, Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck, author of Growth Mindset, there's some information out there where she was talking about even simply believing you have more willpower can improve your ability to make good choices even when you're fatigued. So here's where this shift starts to begin. Let's talk about solutions. And I really want to acknowledge the power of mindset here, because when you tell yourself you're exhausted, when you tell yourself you can't decide, when you tell yourself you don't know, you are reinforcing that lack of willpower, that lack of decision capacity. And so the first place to start is to simply start changing the inner dialogue. For those of you that are joining me in Amplify Inner Circle, you know that one of the big components of the work is to build up and expand the energy we have inside to support the expansion of results and the expansion of strategy, just, like really like putting the right things into action to grow our reach in business. And so when you work on the mindset and you change the inner dialogue, you actually change your capacity for success. So this is not about working more. This is not like saying, oh, I have to make 100 decisions today. It's saying that I do have this ability inside, like believing that there is willpower that you can tap into. And then the next step is to check in and say, now what would I have to do to expand my reserves for decisions right now? So here's some things that might help with that. Number one, simplify the choices you make. Now, people who are running complex businesses with lots of moving parts, they tend to do really simple things to simplify. And there's Barack Obama, and you probably noticed that Steve Jobs, they always wore the same outfit basically. And that was a strategy to simplify the number of choices they made. So I may be talking to the girls here. There may be a couple of guys out there that struggle over what to wear. But if you can simplify the choice of what to wear and start your day with one less decision that stresses you out or gets complicated, then you're keeping that reserve of decision making for things that matter more, right? Do you struggle over what to make for breakfast? Do I pick the good thing or the bad thing? Oh, I'll just grab a donut. Well, have a routine. Like if you have a smoothie every day, you don't have to think about what to make. One less choice to stress you out. How can you simplify your choices? How can you eliminate the number of choices you have to make, right? So this might be a simple one for you, but could you empower your team to handle some of the choices that could be made? Back in the day when I used to teach Build Your Dream Team, one of the lessons, one of the modules was teaching your team how to own their role and be responsible for decisions. Now, this is not something you hand over quickly, but you can train them over time and have like a boundary. One of the things my team knows is, look, if it's under $100, make the decision. You don't need to come to me. One of the places I get fatigued really fast is my team going, well, what do you want me to do with this? What do you want me to do with that? How should I respond to this? How should I respond to that? Systems. Have a system of how you want things done so they can be empowered to decide and follow the system. So that might mean you need to train them on what your standards are. Well, we want to make our clients happy. So if it means giving them, $50 worth of a resource to make them happy, do it. If you need to book a 20 minutes of my time with someone because they've got questions you can't answer, do it. So we create systems that make their decision easier, but also explain how you want the decision made so that it's done as much like you could do as possible. So it might be time for you to stop being the bottleneck and start empowering your team or your children or your spouse, right? Like this can go in a lot of different directions to make the decisions that need to be made. So let's get to number 2. I find this to be super important, and that is know your priorities. When you know what your real priorities are, the priority can oftentimes make the decision. Here's how this works. Let's say you're being faced with the decision to go to an event, and you're thinking to yourself, and I'm in this decision right now with something that's come up for 2021, and the criteria, is very clear, but there's a lot of conditions that aren't. Like, we don't even know if we can travel in 2021. And so I know my priorities are connect, profit, and deliver awesome value. So if I'm going to consider speaking in an event, can I connect with people? Am I really going to be able to build that unique energy that's my superpower in a room on the stage with the people that I want to serve? So that's part of the decision. Am I going to be able to profit? Look, if we're putting time and energy into something and we're spending money on plane tickets and things like that, I want to know that there's a return there. It's part of our decision criteria. It's part of what helps us successfully run a business. And that's not clear. And then third, I want to know, can I serve the people that I most am supposed to serve? Can I deliver awesomeness? So that's one of the things that we're getting clear on. So if you know what your priorities are at any given time, expand my reach, make a profit, and really, really, really connect with people. Like, that's so important to me. Then we get to decide, is this opportunity going to deliver more of that? And then the choices get really easy. So what are your priorities? Do you even know what they are? And priorities are not the same as needs. Like, needs are, I need to make money. I need to have some time off, right? Like, a need is something that, like, if it doesn't get met, you're going to fall apart. You're going to have a meltdown. But a priority is what's driving you towards your goals. And oftentimes we're serving our needs at the expense of our priorities. And it's not necessarily always a bad thing, but if they're always in conflict, you're stressed. So again, that becomes a decision fatigue point. I'm not getting my goals met because I'm constantly stuck in, serving my needs, and my needs never stop. So if you understand your priorities, then you can start to reestablish the way your business runs. And this is why, again, I'll just mention something from Amplify Inner Circle. One of the things that we do at the beginning of every year, and I've been doing this with my mastermind since the inception, is we get clear on the priorities, because the priorities will shift. And so if your priorities shift, keep in mind that's an okay thing. So you might want to take yourself on retreat, or if you're going to be in Amplify Inner Circle with us, we will do this on the virtual retreat to really claim our priorities and decide how they're going to shape our decisions and our choices that year. And that makes decision making so much easier, because it's really just a knowing how to prioritize it instead of letting the fear of not knowing what's important to me kill the opportunity. And this is a great segue into number 3, and that is learn to listen to your energy. So your energy doesn't lie. It's just most of us don't know what it means. Let me say that again. Your energy doesn't lie, but most of us don't know what it means. Or the energy is distorted because you're compromising your energy system. And I have found over the years that when I'm exhausted and I am in decision fatigue and I'm drained, I can't trust what my energy is saying because I don't know what it really means, because my energy is like, I need space, I need to recharge. Okay, so if you can't get a clear read on what your energy is saying, it may be time to do number 4 that I'll cover in a minute, which is rest and recharge. Now, your energy, basically, here's how you read your energy. And this might sound a little woo, but hey, I am a little woo. I'm like one woo on the woo-woo scale. And I find that it's a very valuable woo. And that is when you understand your own energy, you'll understand how to read it, how to manage it, and how to recharge it. And your energy should either be expanding with inspiration towards something, or it's contracting because it feels exhausting. But let me give you an example of where the energy may not have been cultivated right. So I've had a client over the years who when she thinks about doing technology, she gets very contracted. But that's because she's thinking about how she does it. And up to now, her mindset around the technology has felt very daunting. So this is where an example of changing your mindset can change your energy. And this is where it gets really powerful. Okay, so we would want to work on her mindset to shift her attitude towards technology so that it wasn't constricting, but that rather it was neutral. And then she had a strategy to outsource and delegate so she's not getting stuck in investing in technology that overwhelms her. So learning to listen to your energy, what is the energy saying? It's probably why I think a lot of people get a lot of value out of coaching with me or with whoever their coach is, because the coach should be helping you learn to listen to your energy. And what is the energy really saying? So is it expanding? Great. Is it contracting? Why? Okay, contracting isn't necessarily a no, it's a get more information. What's really causing it to contract? And is that something that if it was resolved would allow you to get to an expansion? Okay, so learning that, and that I will link up in the show notes to an episode I did, I think it was in 2018 on like how to really read your energy. Very powerful, very helpful. I highly recommend you listen to it. So this leads me to number 4. As leaders, as entrepreneurs, as business owners who are changing the world, we have to make rest and recharge a part of our regular process. Here's what happens. You're excited about a program. You set an unrealistic deadline. So you work 7 days a week for 7 weeks or 10 weeks or 6 months, and you don't take any time off. You're not getting enough sleep. Now your mind power is starting to diminish. Your energy is starting to get low. You're getting exhausted. You're being, like bombarded with ideas and priorities and deadlines and draining decisions to make, and you can't. Okay, so you're putting things off, or you're making poor decisions, or you're just working harder to try and keep up with it all. That's not a remedy or a formula for success. That's a remedy and a formula for exhaustion, depletion, and poor growth. So the thing that you want to do if you're in this space, or this phase, I should say, is create some space. As counterintuitive as it sounds, you need to carve out some time to do no work. This is one of the things that will rebuild your momentum, your energy, your decision-making tank so that you can make good decisions again. And 5 is create momentum. So there's a lot of different ways to create momentum. And everything we just talked about is a part of getting your momentum back, but momentum is contagious. I like to think of it like a rising tide, or the snowball effect, where it's like the more momentum it gets, the more power it has, the more energy it creates. And when you're in momentum, there's this natural high that kicks in, this natural movement that's really contagious and powerful, and it builds fire and inspiration. But you can't create momentum in a vacuum. Like, you can't do it all on your own. So here's some ways to create momentum. And one simple one is about batching. So this is more about time management, but it's like you can create some momentum by putting like tasks together and doing them one after another, like getting in a group. So you might notice that sometimes it's super easy to make decisions when you've had a few wins, right? Like, this is a great time. Like, I'm feeling great about myself. So that's how you create momentum. Create some small wins, get some small things done, and create that momentum. Another way to do it is more on the support side. It's tapping into the momentum that happens only when you're in a group process. Okay, a group program, a mastermind, whatever that is for you. But when you're in the energy of others who are moving in wins and creating successes, and everybody's moving towards similar goals, there is momentum that you can ride to help you build up and refill that tank of decision-making power. Okay, so that's why Amplify Inner Circle is one of those things I'm so excited about, because there is that like-minded momentum that's created there. And momentum is contagious. It is a way to move you out of the lulls and move you into the highs. It's a way to tap into what is working and take the mystery and having to make multiple decisions. Sometimes it's just simply like, oh, this is working for other people. This feels like a fit for me. It's aligned. It's energetically something that feels expansive to me. I'm going to do that. Okay. Of course, you want to make sure you prioritize it, but you get the picture. And then last, another way to do momentum, and this is for people who really do want to tap into fast growth. You might find that now's the time to hire a coach. Hire someone who, so when people tell me they're a little scared, I'm like, yeah, you want to be a little terrified and energetically excited, knowing that you've hired a coach that's going to stretch you and challenge you and help you achieve goals that you've been thinking about. And it shouldn't be easy. Like if it's easy, it's not going to work because we tend to discount easy. Okay, so you want someone who's stretching you a bit, but doing it in a way that just feels like you have found your person. And that is another way to create momentum, because that accountability and that I'm being seen and I'm being like someone's pulling out the best of me as I go, that is very powerful. So let me recap. We've got 5 tips here. Simplify your choices and maybe even eliminate the number of choices you have to make. 2, know your priorities. Let the priorities lead the choice. 3, learn to listen to your energy. Okay, expansive energy versus contracted energy. 4, rest and recharge more. Create space to refuel your decision making, to refuel your inner fire. And 5, create momentum. Tap into the momentum. And if you don't have momentum happening, find a group, find a way to tap into that momentum for yourself. And if Amplify Inner Circle is a way that we can help you get tapped into that momentum and really master the art of making good decisions quickly and decisions that actually propel you forward, then I'd love to see you this year at amplifyinnercircle.com. We have a very exciting special to get started. I'm not going to share it here in case it's already past the time, but please head over to amplifyinnercircle.com and check in. Is this what's going to help you achieve the goals and the dream that you've set for yourself this year? Do it. Take the risk, make the leap. It's a no-brainer. And I will see you in the Amplify Inner Circle. This is Melanie Benson, your host. Thanks so much for listening in today. If you want to catch up on any of the show notes and circle back on any of the resources we shared in today's show, head on over to the show page at amplifyyoursuccesspodcast.com. And remember, you amplify your results faster when you're in a community of other people who are moving and shaking. Join us at amplifyyoursuccesscommunity.com. One last thing, when you've gained insight from today's episode, help us share that and inspire other people by heading over to iTunes, subscribing, and give it a review. iTunes absolutely loves seeing these reviews pop up, and it actually helps boost my show's visibility. So I would be super grateful for your reviews. And as always, I love seeing your shares of these episodes on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Come find me over there. Tag me in your shares. I'll give you some social media love right back. So see you next week for another inspiring episode of Amplify Your Success Podcast.